Yeah. Should have now had a notification saying it's recording.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I'm a bit concerned that if I turn my camera on, people are going to get confused between myself, Ron, and Ian.
Well, I know, but please take your camera on, then I know you haven't fallen asleep.
Oh, God, I was hoping to get half an hour's tip.
Does that help?
No chance.
I've just deleted myself, Stuart, so come on.
James, have you had to come into, are you having to be in the office? It's not fair, is it?
It all just depends on the day. Right. Is that
Okay. I guess if everyone's ready to kick off, then I think it's probably a good idea to hand it over to WPM and let you guys give us a quick update on the various things where you're up to and stuff, and if there's anything salient that you want to bring up for the first sort of 15 minutes, and then after that we'll jump into anything from our side.
Yeah. Well, the first one, obviously, we had this first meeting, and we did said that we'd start getting information across. I have noticed that I've replied to a lot of emails that we're getting a lot of information or a lot of queries passed from different people coming to us. It's very difficult for us to coordinate and decide which is the most important to yourselves. So, as I've said in my emails, I would just, if possible, if we can have it from one person, what exactly you require, what's most important to you in a timescale, and then we can start working at that and decide how we provide it. I noticed, Feroz, that you were asking to come into the office and have a day with the accountant and what have you. Obviously, things like that are difficult for us to timescale in because we've 300 odd clients. So if you are wanting to do something like that, we maybe need to schedule that in. So if you have anything, I'm happy for you to put it together, what you want, what's most important to you. Because it might be that something like Feroz were asking, which were to be able to pick information, we can do a file share to you and get all that information to you, so you can go through it at your own time. There's no problem with providing information. But if we are doing a massive dump of it, similar to when a property leaves us, if we provide all the to a new agent, because it does take that much time, we would normally charge for that. But like I said, I'm happy if we have a structured way of getting it to you that we can provide that.
I think my emails was just started for 10, so I didn't know what was previously asked for. But I think my request was pretty straightforward. It's really just looking at the last 3 accounts. I want to see the background, and I want to build up a story, because looking at accounts is just numbers to me. But I want to see how have you arrived at those numbers, and that's the key. You know, when you're an accountant, you sort of tend to look at, well, we've got, you know, a number for repairs and maintenance. Where is it coming from? You know, what are the contracts that build up that? So what I want to do is build up a picture for the last 3 years. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Ian. I mean, I know you've got a team, you've got an office, you've got a day job, and I want to fit into that.
Yeah.
I want to bring in someone like James. I think he showed interest, another set of eyes. If you want to do a break dump, that's fine. But I'm not sure how you'll do that, because you don't know the questions I'm going to be asking. So sometimes it's better to come to the office and say, okay, we've looked at the accounts, but I want to look at this number here. Can you give me the supporting documentation that provides that answer? Now,
Right.
if you can do it in a dump, that's fine. But what I'll do is I'll schedule the list of questions. If you can supply me with the last 3 years accounts, that'll be a start. And then I can start looking at those accounts, and maybe in a week's time, I can just say, okay, I'll start formulating questions that I see fit. Okay, and then if you can do a document dump, that's great. If not, I'm happy to come down and spend, some time with your team, your crew, and just ask some questions. Okay,
Right.
So however you want to do it, let's just structure it that way.
That's fine. We do have there's terms put across. One is the company accounts are quite short. That might be what your terminology relates to. which is where it's the breakdown that you get with your AGM. We then have service charge accounts, which detailed breakdown of all information that's held with accounts.
Yeah, that's what I want to go into, because the year accounts are just numbers at the end of the day, but the heart of it is the detail, as we all know. So when you do an audit, you want to say, okay, well, where did that number come from? Where are the invoices that make up that? Let's take a simple example. We have a utility cost, and how many invoices that make up that? And then the other thing I want to look at is the accruals and prepayments as well. So it's then digging deeper into that number and say, well, actually, okay, you've got those invoices, but then you accrued another 3,000 on there, and that goes into So it's things like that I want to do. So I think the best thing to do is, let's start off with supply me with the 3 years. I will then start looking at those and start then formulating the questions. Okay, and then maybe in a week's or 2 weeks' time, I'll say, okay, this is where I'm up to. I've got the list of questions. How do you want to answer those? Do you want me, have you got the answers you can send to me with a document through through Google Drive, or do I need to come into the office? I mean, to save time, if you can do it online, great. It saves me a visit. But if I don't get the answers, sometimes it could be that I need to then ask questions while I'm there. And I don't want to do it on an email because it will take forever. I might have, say, 60 questions, and how quickly can I get those answers? So here we've got, we've got to set up a time as well. Let's just say by the end of the month, we've got the questions, we've got some answers from you, but then I don't want to spend 2-3 months down the line saying, well, actually, I've still got questions and I'm not getting the answers. I don't want to spend months on end trying to arrive at an answer that should have been quite simple. So
Ian,
sometimes it's easier just to go into.
Sorry for us.
So just let me finish. Sorry. So yes, just answer the question. I think once you get the accounts, I will then start looking at those. I will put a time on there, probably 10 days to up to 2 weeks to get those answers, those questions to you. Maybe then let's have a look at how we can arrive at those, how we can get those answers to those questions. Okay. If it's, some of these might be straightforward, but they're not straightforward for me. So like I said, I want to build a picture. I want to see the last 3 years and then how it's then built up. And once I get a trend and I see that the service charge accounts are saying, yeah, okay, we're getting the receipts in, we've got the payments coming through, but how is that money spent? Where is it going to then? And that's the other bit I want to start looking at. And how does that service the reserve fund? What's the surplus left? What's happening to that on a year-on-year basis? So I want to do a full record at the end of it. I want to do a full reconciliation of, where is that reserve fund, for example, and what's happened to it. So there's a lot of things that I want to start. I'm scratching my head at the moment already. I'm not even looked at the questions. I've not looked at the accounts yet. So I'm getting a bit stiff, getting itchy already.
Is in agreement that's a priority then?
Yes, please. Could you give me a time frame then, Ian, as to when you can have those 3 years accounts over?
I think what he's suggesting is what I will do is I'll get you an example, Fedos, of last year to see whether that's what you're requiring, because I think sometimes what Fedos might mean, it might not be what I'm understanding. So if
it's straightforward, it's just 3 years accounts, and then you've got your service accounts.
If you just let me explain, like I said, we have I'll get you the company accounts, that's fine. Our service charge accounts are presented via an accounting software different ways. So I can get you an example of that for last day. That will then give you and say, is that enough detail, or do you want more detail? And then once we've agreed that, say by Monday, I could send you one of those Fenos today.
Yeah. Let's take the last filed accounts, and then just say, okay, let's look at the debtors, and those are the debtor receipts that are coming through. Okay, Now, your accounting software could be that, yeah, it will give you by apartment. I mean, it doesn't have to go to that level, but if it means that I need to then inquire about, you know, some of the charges that have not, the receipts have not come through, then that's fine. That's a recovery thing. But
Yeah, let me
let's
get
take a simple example. Look at the debtor receipts. Does that equal the number in last year's accounts?
you're moving on to questions before. Let me get an example across to
Well,
you.
that's what an accountant does. That's what we are. That's how we're built. Yeah.
An example.
So pardon me for that. Okay.
No problem. Let me get an example across to you.
Send me the example, and then let's just see how we get there. But what I don't want to do is, and I want to sort of broadcast this to the rest of the team, is that we don't want to be 3 months down the line and we're still asking the same questions, you know. And that's why, you know, maybe a visit to the office, it could be that your accounting software, I could just go in there and have a look and say, okay, there's that number, leave it with me, and I'll just reconcile, blah, 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 and it's quicker that way. Rather than you send me a bit, I don't know what your accounting software is capable of doing. Can it download? And I work with accounting software for the last 25 years, so I know how most of them work. Yeah, and they're not. Some of them are mainframe based. They're not great. They don't download very well. The reporting's not very great. So, so send me an example, and then I think quickly I can probably establish that. Let me just see how quickly I'm getting that information and those answers to those questions that I've got.
All right.
Can I just
Sorry,
can I
Stuart's got a question.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say I do appreciate Ian's comments there about accounting terminology. You've got to keep in mind that not everyone on this call is an accountant, so there are, even in work I find it, accountants will talk about stuff and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what that means. You know, so I again, even though Ian's in the position he's in, he's, you know, maybe we should all do a financial managers course or something, but yeah, I understand what Ian's coming from on that one. What I was going to say is there's a bit of an elephant in the room based on what Feroz mentioned there, which is James Metcalf. Obviously he is on the board of directors. I'm not quite sure where he's up to submitting his paperwork. I mean, to be quite honest, James has had a personal mitigating circumstance anyway. I don't really want to go into the details, but he's had a very close family bereavement, and he's needed to disappear for a couple of weeks to sort things out. So that's probably the reason for that delay. But separate to that, he is essentially on the board of directors. The paperwork will be getting done, and we do need to address this interaction problem with James and Watson's. Now, I know James can be a bit of a bull in the china shop, as we can all be. But at the same time, we can't be in a position where he's excluded from stuff. So any visit to the office, how do you now feel about Metcalf's attendance?
As long as we have correct figure, then I'm happy for him to be admitted into our office for any means. But I think you've got a platform here. As long as we're doing it right, I only need little working groups anyway that maybe come in for different things. You know what I mean? Rather than having everybody or have a small number. But yeah, I've as long as behaviour is correct, no problems.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. There was also something else that you mentioned, Ian, and I don't know if you should leave it to the end or throw it in now, but you mentioned the debtor, or Feroz mentioned the debtors list. Obviously, the debtors list isn't as bad as it seems. Most people are probably on average about 4 weeks behind with payments, and I appreciate it's just the time it's been printed out. But there were 1 or 2 notable exceptions. Now, I understand that's coming up for us in a couple of weeks anyway, so should we table that one for now and leave it for this meeting, or is there anything salient you want to bring up on the debtors list?
What we do is the process is that if you fail and don't make a payment, then we a week later we check that balance, and then automatic reminder is sent out. You're allowed a fortnight to pay, and then if it can, a further reminder which is chargeable the second one. If we're not getting payment, then we do come to you as a board of directors for an agreement. So anybody that's on a loan, showing on there as a long-term debtor, if there's any good, they will fall in and we'll leave directly if we need to legal action.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's kind of it with the. Sorry, bear with me a minute. The transcribe just seems to have stopped. Hang on. Oh, there we go. It's back on again. The one that leapt out at me was the apartment. I think it's 26 James Warby. I mean, we're all aware of the situation there, but he has left a big debt outstanding. Where do we stand in terms of recovering that money?
I don't know. I'd find out off your debtors side, but I'd send that list out to you. But they should all be within a legal framework of solicitors follow. But that's Warby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask credit control to get in touch and find out, get a report for you.
Okay, cool. Okay, sorry, Ian, back to you.
Yeah, so the two things that we have that are the main, well, three really. Second one is, and it'll assist James. I think what you've agreed is an £100 spend limit on any works at present. That will impact on a development your size on effective management. And I think James has already seen issues with that already, getting a contractor out. I'm sure you'll appreciate that if we're going to send a contractor out for something, and then they get to the job and there's anything to do on it, unless we can
I can put this one to bed now. I do, for what it's worth, I absolutely agree, James, on this one. I think £100 was a little bit optimistic. It was discussed at length with the board, but after last week's meeting, Jane, I'm correct in saying that there should have been an email to Watson's. I think it was sent actually saying that it's increased to.
No, I haven't actually sent it because I was just waiting for some other bits of information before I sent it. I'll be honest. But yeah.
Okay, sorry. Sorry,
no,
I didn't mean to
fine.
throw you under the bus there.
It's fine, throw me under the bus. It's absolutely fine.
Jane,
but yes, we
please
did
try
agree
harder.
that we would increase that. Shut up, Stuart. That we would increase that. And we did say 500. But then again, I have had another conversation with James where I personally think it might need to be a little bit more because of some of the things that I know sort of are happening. But then I haven't gone back to the board to ask that question yet. Yeah, sorry, well, I just killed me dog.
We can work 500 for now, and we can see how that progresses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, James?
Yeah, the only issue with that is that we have a monthly flick test and lighting check by RG Buckles, and that's coming out usually between like £900 to like over £1,000 because obviously they replace bulbs, they replace fittings. We've got a project of works where we're changing the old halogen fittings for LED fittings, sensor fittings. And obviously, if he's then got to come back to me when he gets to the limit of, oh, well, I've done £500, go away, it's going to end up impacting you more and costing more if he's got to go back and make 2 visits rather than the 1 visit. At the moment in time, he does what he needs to do there. We've agreed it because he does all our sizes, as honest as anything, and it's easier rather than going back and forth of what he can and can't do. Because at the moment, there's 4 lights out over the jacuzzi. There's various lights out in different places. And like I say, if he's got to then calculate what he's up to, and then I've got to go back to you and say, right, well, we spent 500. He could be spending another 500-600 because, like I say, he's got the 3-hour discharge this month. So what he'll do is he'll go around first, see which lights are out, replace the bulbs in that, do his 3-hour discharge, see what's failed on that, replace the bulbs, replace fittings on that. It's more, it'll end up costing you more money if I've got to say to him, right, you've got a £500 limit. Once you get to 500, come back to me.
So, Joe, are there any other contractors that you've got where that's the case, or is it just RG Buckle?
No, it's just RG Buckles. Well, the contractors that I use, obviously I'm a joiner and I know how long roughly stuff should take and what the cost of it should take. So they'll ring me up when they get there. They'll say, right, I've got to do this. On average, it's probably £300-400, something like that. If it's going to be there a couple of days or something like that, I'll get a rough price on it. But you can't always get an exact quote on what they're going to do because it'll end up costing more money in the long term sometimes. If they've got a quote for it and they've got to put back up into that, contractors will quote more on top of that just to back themselves up, just in case they cut themselves short on it. So, like I say, it's entirely up to you, like how you want to do it going forward.
I would suggest That's the system.
Sorry, Ian, you broke up to me. I don't know if you broke up to anybody else.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of static, Ian.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I am.
Can we all turn his mics off unless we're speaking? That might help.
Is that better? Right. I would suggest if I would agree the RG Buckle one. I'm in full agreement with James. I've worked with RG Buckle for years. He doesn't like doing testing because he feels like it's just buying work and it causes a compromise. And what it does is it's the most efficient way of having somebody there to test the replacer that day. I'm exactly the same with James. If I have to go back as a contractor and then produce a quote and everything, I'm adding my travelling time on. So all you're doing is you're adding another £100 on for every job if he doesn't just do it there and then.
I think to be honest, we've probably put this one to bed. I think we can probably look at making an exception for RG Buckle short term. And to answer James's other concern there, I mean, the spending cap in reality is I'm hoping it's going to be a relatively short-term measure just until we've got more of a feeling for what's coming up, the incomings and outgoings kind of thing. That's not to say it would be taken off in 3 months or 6 months or whenever, but I think let's be perfectly honest about this. It's more about actually just getting a grip of things initially and just seeing what's coming in and out. So don't let that spend cap serve as a disincentive, if that makes sense. It may be a case of within 3 months, it's increased. It may not be, I don't know, but yeah, I hope that kind of explains a little bit and clarifies the situation. Although what I would say is you guys actually, because I shouldn't say this, but with the £100 spend limit, I sort of thought to myself, if I was them, I'd simply bombard the board with emails for spending requests. And so players at our own game, I'd soon get sick of it. But anyway.
Takes too long.
Yeah. Right. The next two for me are the important issues that you've got at the moment. So you've got your building safety. So currently we have the insurance that we deal with, we have the freeholder, we have the fire brigade and what have you, and we have the latest past 9980 and the assessment which you've had, which requires actions. That the majority of that, and James can follow that up with you and provide you updates as to exactly where we're at and what needs doing. And then you have the dispensation in relation to the balcony above 120. So I think you've got to get it waterproof, you've got to get watertight. But at present, like I showed you before, the funds aren't there to put that in place at the moment. But I do believe we're ready to instruct. James, if you've got any comments, please jump in.
Yeah, we're just waiting to instruct. Once we've got the funds for it, it's a case of instructing PBS to just crack on with it, because I personally don't feel that it is coming from the balcony of 120, because like I say, we've done substantial work on that. The contractors that have done substantial work on that, I know that what they've done is correct in how they should do it in the process of doing it. I suspect it's coming from another balcony, or it's coming from the wall cavity or something like that.
Now, I know the previous directors agreed it, but obviously you're the new board of directors. So are you happy to proceed at that as soon as we have the funds in place? Or do you want to do the...
I think
Can I just interject?
I think we'll have to go back to rest at board and get a majority.
Carl, Ron's just trying to say something.
James, I'm not being critical of you, James, but when you say you've seen the work that they've done is all correct and everything, have you not seen some of the photographs that's been taken of that work where the work isn't correct and not finished correctly?
Which photographs are this? Because the photographs that are on the building surveying report that from the individual or the independent building surveyor are not the photos that I have of that balcony.
Well, some of the remedial works that I've seen, where the fiberglass meshing's been put down, it hasn't had the resin coating put on correctly. It hasn't gone up the upstand, and there's a piece of 15mm copper tube holding something up as well.
We can provide you. We can provide photographs of the works when they were completed, and that should be able to be, yeah. We can provide you photographs of that when it were completed, which will show you what James is talking about.
That's not the photographs of what it is now. They are very, 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 very old photos.
Right. So the process is then, you will send somebody down there with the instruction of, can you stop this leak, lads? Or do we have it surveyed correctly with a method statement in place to do these works? Do you adopt a method statement principle?
Specification of works.
Pardon?
We've got specification of works that they are doing. We're not just down there.
You've got a specification of works, but have you got a method statement as well?
Yeah.
We instruct, so we have a specification, we tender against it, and then we ask for risk assessments and method statements for the works to be agreed and started. So if once we get an instruction and we look to instruct PBS Yorkshire, we get their full sets of RAMs and agree those before any works take place.
Right, and they're not generic RAMs, are they?
No.
Right, well, I think we need to see them as well before that work proceeds.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's fine.
I have a couple of questions in no particular order, if that's okay. Where does this leave us in terms of the ongoing court case and liability and so on?
At the end of the day, you've a duty of the lease to stop any leak. So you're the management company. You are there. Your duty is to maintain the building. You have to do that, and you have to do that within the funds that are permitting. I can't advise on what your liability will be, but on my mind, you have to do this as soon as you possibly can. So as far as I'm concerned, as soon as funds are available, I think that should be instructed and moved on with.
Well, just while we're talking about
the transcript, sorry, for the sake of the transcript, Carl's just messaged saying he's away for a few, but it would need the majority of the board to agree first, which goes without saying. But okay.
Well, just while you're having a think, Stuart.
Yeah.
I understand previously that on one particular visit to these balconies, there were a sum of 4,000 spent. And then somebody had to go back and spend another £8,000. What was all that about then?
You've had from that balcony, it started in late 2020, I believe. So you had investigations then. You had some works completed at the start. The balcony were fully stripped and replaced and fiberglassed in August of 22. And I believe then that showed, well, water still came in, so that was stripped back off again and completely replaced. And since then, that has had the outlet completed. It's had another full coating of a waterproofing treatment on top, and all those costs are in relation to those works.
Okay, so I appreciate that, Ian. Thanks very much. So after that first 4,000 was spent then, which was supposed to solve the problem, why did we have to go back again then? Because it didn't solve the problem.
Every work that's been happening on that balcony is meant to solve it, and has worked and solved it on other balconies around the building. So when you look at Millroyd in 2014, it all started. As soon as we got a leak on a balcony, it was overboarded and fiberglass, and that dealt with majority throughout the building has been successful. That is the exact same principle that's been used here, other than the outlet, which the outlet's been completely re-sleeved and everything. So everything there you would expect to stop the leak, but it hasn't, which is why James has alluded that what you're doing now is you're actually going to take that balcony off to identify the leak. So you're effectively doing a destructive investigation and recovery, because until you take it off, we don't know where it's going in. I could feel
so this is more exploratory than it is actual remedy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I said to James, we've had it on. Conversions are your worst things in the world when you come in to try and find something, because they dig into walls. You've got an old wall here that's 200 years old or whatever, and it's got to get cavity in it. You've got on that top floor, they took the roof off. they left the original timber joists, but then they put a steel and a new construction on top of it, which ties into a balcony that actually forms part of your roof. So we're unsure and we can't find where that water comes in. What we're saying is that it's been sealed, it's had that, and it hasn't worked, which is where you're in the position. What has worked on every other balcony hasn't worked on this one for some reason.
So
Yeah.
I was saying
Sorry, Carl. Carl, go on. You've got a question.
So, Ian.
Ian, you were saying 2014.
Yeah.
Go on, Carl.
After you, Ron.
Oh well, I was just saying that. So when this other team goes back again, then Ian, are we saying that it's going to be guaranteed not to leak, or is it just a flick of the coin in the air again?
You find it start through the works, because if they strip that off, and again, can't see, so you will have to have a surveyor involved in this as well, because as they strip it off, it will identify the cause. That then will have the works completed to the specification that's been provided by Topsail, which is your fiberglassing company. So anything that's within that specification should be guaranteed by Topsail. The problem comes is when you say, will it leak again? You have to identify a cause of the leak. So if you can identify and prove that the actual fiberglass covering had failed, then it's guaranteed. But if you have a leak that comes, say, through the cladding on the top construction and gets behind that fiberglass covering, then it may not be guaranteed. They'll only get a word.
I hear what you're saying there, Ian. And with all due respect, it don't fill me with confidence that we're ever going to stop this leak.
We know, like, you do have this. I understand what you say. It's a chain of events you have to go. You start on the most obvious. You work through those issues, and then once you've done everything that is obvious up here, then you have to strip off and stripping off and starting again. In 99.99 times out of 100 deals with the issue, because it'll identify where the water we're getting in. That then you can.
Can I quickly ask you, Ian, you mentioned 2014 with the start of the issues with the penthouse balconies, is that correct?
Yeah, late 2013, I think it was Eunice in under Diane's.
I've just got the copy of accounts here because obviously Stuart and myself have the accounts going back from January 2013 onwards. And actually PBS, who I believe you're wanting to do the works again, actually did works from as early as April on balconies, and we invested over $7,000 for one balcony in May. Well, the invoice was paid in May 2013, so that's considerably earlier.
It may be the 20 when I came in. I'm working from memory. I'm not being funny. It's 9 years ago. So
no, that's fine. I would just wanting to make sure we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. So 2013 is the earliest record we have, and there is evidence of penthouse issues in 2013, which is as early as we can get access to.
Yeah. Well,
okay, thank you.
Can I just
Jane,
say something?
Sorry, go on, Jane.
Go first.
I was going to say I've got two questions relating to this ongoing leak, if that's okay. It's firstly, there's lots of about the Section 20 dispensation. Is it possible you could just confirm, was this authorised by the previous board prior to the application being submitted?
Yes, it was.
Okay. The next one relates to apartment 86, which is part of the vertical chain. Obviously, that apartment, we've all seen photos. It's in a bit of a state. We know that there's, it's a chicken and egg situation. But what is happening with that apartment at the moment? Because the leaseholder concerned doesn't really seem to be engaging very much. And we're trying to understand, because if I had an apartment, regardless of whether it was my home or my rental, I'd be a bit miffed at this point in time. I mean, they had a tenant living in there for 8 months, surrounded by buckets of water. The place is now covered in green mold. It's in an absolute state. I understand the paid gardener, manservant, is in there emptying buckets now and stuff, which we do need to talk about at a later stage. But I mean, What's the situation with that leaseholder? Because again, with reference to the debtor list, he's a little bit behind. Is there a special agreement in place with him that, you know what, the apartment's not usable at the moment, will be flexible, whatever? And also wondering who's putting the bill for his lost rental income.
At the present, is that the one that's uninhabitable at the moment?
Well, I'd say there's two that's uninhabitable. There's obviously 106 Joan Blakey's and 86 underneath, I think it is. Off the top of my head, I forget the leaseholder's name.
102 and 83, Stu.
Yeah, so
You say potato.
regarding 86, it will be subject to an insurance claim. If the insurers negate that claim or decline it, then it will be subject to the lease and how that will be repaired under that lease. The leaseholder of that one has been advised of that situation. So exactly the same as if there's a loss in there and your insurance.
Okay, I found this on the web for residuals negate claim or decline it, then it will be subject to the lease and how it will be repaired under the clause. That one has
I think artificial intelligence has just kicked in on my laptop as I was speaking, Siri or whatever it was. Yeah, so anything that you have that's an insured risk, you place a policy, or the landlord places a policy for the insured risk to cover it under the lease. If there's an issue there that the insurers deem that for any reason isn't covered under the lease, then the leaseholder has the ability to recover those costs from the service charge under the terms of the lease, and that's what has been advised. It will be for you as directors and you as a management company to determine whether that is an acceptable level and whether you feel there is any avenue outside of that to recover your costs from anywhere else.
Okay. Sorry, Jane, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think we've got, not being disrespectful to anybody, but I think we've got so many things to review in this meeting and probably only a set amount of time. I think there's nothing we can do about those apartments at this moment in time. So I suggest maybe we move on to some of the other things that we do need to maybe bottom today.
Yeah.
Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So the next one then is James' update on required Safety Act.
You're on mute again, James.
Just, I think Louise has just sent something over to Stuart and you, Ian. Let me just get it up. The majority of it is all done. The only thing that we're still waiting for is on the escape stairs. So the one on the top floor, there is a hatch that goes onto the roof void. That's requested that can be operable. At the moment, that can only be opened if they unchain the set of ladders, put the ladders up, and do it that way. What I've had the quotes for is, we're getting quotes for, is to make it so that it's it goes off when the fire alarm goes off, or if it's on that floor, etc., etc. So it's powered, so it goes or it opens. So I'm just waiting for quotes for that. The other thing is the lift around the lift shaft. We've had costs for that at the moment to remove the polycarbonate sheathing, which is like £112,000. We will get that down.
That's from Coney, isn't it? That's actually from the lift. So we can then look at different contractors.
There's the balconies, obviously we all know about that. That's there's some fireworks, so the fire stopping works. Just waiting for quotes on that. I've just instructed the communal doors to be fixed. Well, I instructed them like about a month and a half ago. And then it's just quarterly door checks. Like I said, most of it from the FRA is pretty much done.
Right, on your balcony.
Did see reference to asbestos in an email. I just want to clarify something. I take it we don't have an asbestos problem in the building.
No, No, you were a conversion after a certain date. So as I understand it, every bit of asbestos we've removed. Sometimes they do leave it in situ, but off memory, I don't. We had an aspect. We always have. Our health and safety forms by the basis that we have an health and safety assessment done, a fire risk assessment done, a Legionella assessment done, an asbestos assessment done. Anything that's found in that we react to, which is what we've been. So yeah, so you have a Legionella, which is fine. The majority of your problems, like you say, have been down to the fire risk assessment, the changes since Grenfell. The solicitor, I had a meeting with them on Monday afternoon, late on Monday afternoon, and they did promise me that by the close of business on Wednesday lunchtime, I would have the updates for yourselves in relation to responsibilities under the Building Safety Act. I still haven't got it, which is wonderful. But so I will follow up and chase them again. You do have. We can give a certain amount of advice in relation to what's qualifying and what's not qualifying. So works under the Act have a qualifying if they were defects at the time of construction. If they're non-qualifying, it's a defect that's outside of that. So if you have a fire door and it was never a fire door when it was installed, that would be a defect from construction. If you've got a fire door and it's had damage to it caused by day-to-day actions, then that will be a non-qualifying works and you will be able to then repair them. So we can give you a certain amount of advice of the stuff that you can get on with. And that's what James is doing at the moment. So he'll come back to you on them. On the other qualifying works, which includes the balconies, where you want to determine that especially large scale costs and any previous costs that have been done. So any works we've done over the last few years regarding fire stopping and what have you, you do need that solicitor advice before you move forward. That solicitor advice will tell you who's responsible and whether you can actually instruct the works or not. So, we're a little bit on hold, and I know it's not the greatest thing, but until we get those solicitor advice and who's responsible, then we can move forward on those. As I said, I've looked at your leases and everything, and in my opinion, I think you may have an issue, but I think the solicitors need to give you that. Need to confirm exactly who's responsible. I'm not sure whether your lease devolves it back to yourselves or not.
Okay.
Doesn't government legislation supersede the lease, though? I mean, if the government legislation, and I'll admit, you read one thing on one source and another on another, but if the government legislation is on our side, surely that would supersede the terms of the lease because it's public policy.
You could end up, what I've found from this is right from the start, and I alluded to it when we started off about EWS ones and what have you. The guidance has been absolutely horrendous all the way through. They've changed. The government is changing the legislation again now, and they keep putting things in where they make a comment online that no leaseholder will pay for this, but then the word of the Act doesn't follow that up. So I can see this rumbling on for a period either way, but you need that legal advice. Like I said, I can't.
Agreed. We need legal advice, but my current understanding of the legislation is, or proposed legislation, whatever, is that there's a deadline coming up, which is October, and potentially one of the issues is whether the building owner has more than 2 million in net assets, and if he doesn't, then he's supposed to produce a certificate to say the same. Now, how far are we in the process of either getting that certificate from him or a confirmation that the certificate doesn't apply?
As I advise, any leaseholder can request that from him. I, as a company, haven't got the insurance to request that. So we can't request it. That's something I have. We're not solicitors, and I go through our personal indemnity. So if I did that wrong, and a £500,000 claim came in, and I'd asked for that, then I'd effectively put our company at risk. Which is why I said at all these meetings that we won't request that. It has to be done by solicitors. They need to determine under the lease who's responsible, and then write to the people that are responsible to ask for those.
But we as leaseholders can write to them individually if needed to request the information.
You as leaseholders can write to them individually and request that, yeah.
Okay. And thanks to our anonymous letter sender, we now have the address for them as well, which is good.
Yeah, well, the work via Schroders, so they have an agent, Schroders, and you've got Griff. They will respond. I'm sure they will. Like I said, the act, just so you're aware, if it comes to it, effectively says that you can take action against them, but it then stops you being able to fund it. So my understanding of what the government have put in place isn't the clearest, if you see what I mean, which is why you need this advice.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, an obvious issue with the government policy on this one is it's great that they're saying that the developer's responsible, well, or the owner's responsible now, but there's absolutely nothing there that backs up that legislation that stops the owner from simply going bankrupt and shelling everything into, other company entities. So
yeah.
I do agree that the legislation is weak at best.
Yeah, what we have found over the last few months is any developer that's still developing and has signed up to the government fund has now started coming forward and remediating buildings that they've built, even if it were subsidiary companies. But where you are, you've got a freeholder and a developer that don't develop anymore. So you are in a bit of a tricky situation.
I'm not so sure on that one because I'm hearing a lot of talk from people at Comedy Council, Calderdale, that the development over the water from the mill is a little bit connected to Binks. And I'm hearing from a couple of people that Binks are still technically a going concern.
Oh, they're a going
just because they're not.
Yeah. But,
so what? That's maybe something we need to look into a little bit as well, because okay, they may not be actively developing something under the Binks brand, but they're still a going concern. Therefore, I suggest there's still liability.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, anyway, we got a bit waylaid there, Ian. Do you want to any other topics? And James, thank you for obviously all the doors and stuff and all that kind of stuff. I think most people in the building are probably quite happy with that sort of ticking on, providing it's not ridiculously expensive. It's the big individual cost items, I think, that's got everyone's heckles up.
Yeah, well, we'll get your prices for anything that's above the 500, and then you can make your decisions and come back to us. As long as we have that fine, like I said, if we go to Jane and it comes back, I'm more than happy at that.
Yeah.
I am going to have to leave in 10 minutes. I'm just going to have to say, because I've got another meeting to go to. But
yeah, likewise.
So can I just, Ian, can I just go back to the very beginning? Your comment on the having one person. Are we all going to agree that that's going to be me? That everything comes through? Carl, Ron?
Yeah, absolutely.
Stu?
Yeah, I did have a question on this, Ron, because I kind of misunderstood the rules a little bit, or what had been agreed. So I've been sort of sending stuff to you guys with Jane in copy as a focal point, because I thought originally you didn't want 6 people in copy to generate 6 replies. So are you okay with that, or do you want everything filtered through Jane? Because I'm just conscious of that's a hell of a lot of stuff to go through one person.
It is. I will be happy to. I think it's something to go for. What we can't have is if we're getting emails pinging in from everybody and no clear lines. If what we do with other companies that have got lines is they may have working groups. So you may have somebody involved on the maintenance side, and they come through and they copy Jane. You're working with that group, and another small group on account. So I'll be happy as we move forward to have one person in Jane for one sourcing, one person in Jane for another, and get it way of working.
Would we be happy with, for us, for accounts, finance?
Yeah.
So if we do for us and myself for finance, and for now, keep it with just you and me, Stu, for the other.
What about Leisure Club? Because I've been assigned that.
You have been assigned that, but But Carl, I think the Leisure Club is fine, but I think that's maybe not, pardon me saying it, but maybe not quite as important as some of the other things at the moment. And that I'm going to kill that dog.
I would say let Carl run with the Leisure stuff, keeping you in copy, if that's all right with everyone.
You all right with that?
I know it might not seem important, but a lot of people are going to start complaining about the Leisure facilities.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, Ian?
I'd let Carl run with that.
I'm happy with that. Are you agree?
And I'll just wade in from time to time just to, you know,
Yeah.
when I've got a spare 5 minutes here and there.
The only other thing I have got contact solicitors because they, as I understand, the solicitors need.
You're breaking up a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit.
you're breaking up. Try again.
The other important is have you now?
Carl, can you mute your thing? Let's all mute our things.
Yeah. Have you now got contact via the old directors with the Solicitors Act on behalf of the claim with Blakey?
Well, on that front, I will mention a couple of things. I have had an initial telephone call with the solicitor. They did call me back. There's been a number of emails, chasers sent to them. They're not engaging. I am getting quite concerned on that front. Separate to that, we have also submitted some contact with our director's insurance because we're in a bit of a tricky position in terms of information that's previously been submitted relating to Joan's claim and what the previous board of directors know or knew at that time.
Right.
Now, without going into the all ins and outs of this, because obviously we're all parties to this claim, we are in the process of running that past our director's insurance. In fact, I'm hoping at 4 o'clock UK time today to have a further chat with them. The solicitors, though, is it DAC Beechcroft? Yeah, they're not responding really. So
the main focus was actually got the contact details. You weren't still out in the cold, and
no, we've got the contact details. We've got the name of the person representing us. We are struggling on that front, but that's our issue, not a Watson's issue. On that note, though, in terms of handover from the previous directors, we have had absolutely nothing. Now, I know you guys said that you'd sent them a letter. We are at a point now where we're probably going to have to send them a legal letter, which again is something for us to organise. But if you have sent them any correspondence, and I appreciate it may have been forgotten about or whatever, if you have sent anything, could you send a copy across of whatever you sent to them, just so we can add it to the file?
I'll have a look at what I did and see what.
Because obviously there's a lot of history here and a lot of things that we're not aware of, and so on, and they have essentially just walked away and they're not engaging at all. So, yeah, we kind of do need them to honour their obligations.
Yeah, when we came out of the meeting, I know I've had one conversation, but I'll have a look at what emails I sent and see what wording I put in. But it is for them. I can't force them to.
No, I get it. I just, if you've sent them something, just send over what you've sent them. If you've got the option of sending them a gentle reminder, that would be appreciated. Send that over to Jane, and then we'll run with it from there. It's an issue between current directors and former directors. Watson shouldn't be in the middle of that.
All right, lovely. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I just give a prompt again? I know we did it. I did it yesterday as well about your IT team and the email address.
Yeah, he spoke to me this morning. He's on with it today. He's hoping to have some update when we get by end of the afternoon. They're normally quite quick on these things. It's just about whether it needs a complete new one or whether he can reassign it. So we'll find out on that.
And does it cost us anything, that?
It's about £3 a month, he says. It's next to nothing. You can have a thingy one and he just charges you that. So it's just hosted for you, that's all.
Right. So he hosts us at £3 a month.
Yeah.
So just if you can ask him these questions when you speak to him again. Is that just for the directors at Millroyd or whatever the email is, or could we have an inquiries one and then does it cost more?
Yeah, you probably end up with more. Each one will have a certain cost to it, yeah.
Right. So
ideally what we'd like is for the directors one to just be changed to inquiries. I think the directors one sounds a little bit pretentious, quite honestly, and it's not warm and fuzzy for people to email it.
Yeah.
So if they can just change the email address, that would be great. Sorry, Jane, for marching in there. This is another point that's actually come up about this email address. Obviously, your guys are looking at it now, and it would be good if all the past stuff on that email address, if it is transferable over and can be modified, can be archived, because obviously that's going to be needed at some point. If it's not able to do that, I assume it's reliant upon the former directors giving their access credentials. And if they haven't done that, and we have to start it anew, we want to ensure that all the costs of this are passed for their account.
Right. That will be for yourselves. I'm not sure whether that's a legal whether you can legally do that or whatever. But yeah, that's what I asked him to look into, is so whether you can get in and you just take over and you've got all the back.
Yeah.
Because obviously we should be able to therefore change all the access passwords so they can't get into it anymore and everything anyway. So
Yeah,
that's the plan.
yeah, that's all right.
But if you can maybe put him in contact with me, and then I can liaise with you. You know, once you've done your little bit, because otherwise it's a bit silly, isn't it? Doing, you know, Chinese whispers.
Once he's found out, I'll put him in touch with you, and then you can tell him exactly what you need. And
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there else?
Just a couple of things I've got. So
right, I'm going to have to disappear. Sorry. Send me the thing over later, will you, Stuart?
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, bye.
See you, Jane.
So the present security system that we've got in place, is that Paxton? Is that a Paxton system? You're on mute, Ian.
Yeah, I'm sure it was Paxton that were put in years ago. Yeah.
So that's a Paxton.
Yeah.
You probably recall I've mentioned these steps leading down to the canal from the car park. Yeah. We've since been informed that because we wanted the remedial works doing on that, because the work was not up to scratch, and we've since been informed that they're no longer trading.
Right.
I mean, that's not very good, is it? We wouldn't expect you to use somebody that's susceptible to be going out of business to do work for us, Ian, with all due respect.
I think any company is at risk of going out of business. That's been borne out by some of the largest construction companies going out of business overnight. We do our checks as best we can, and we use the people that we've used for periods of time, but I can't stop a business going out. If we
can I ask something?
Yeah.
Was it subcontracted through Fox Group, that job?
James, I don't know individually.
I think we've lost James.
James? Yeah.
Has James had to go?
I think we've lost James. I don't know.
Sorry, we lost your comment there. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I don't do day to day, so I've no idea which contractor it is. All I'm saying is that we can't guarantee a contractor will stay in business.
Yeah, I appreciate you don't do day to day. That's fair enough, but it is a little bit disappointing when we spent all that amount of money on it, and was the work ever inspected by Watsons?
I don't know. Like I say, I'm not. I don't know
because
who did it. I don't know the circumstances. I would expect it to be inspected, but yeah.
I understand your position, Ian. There's no question about that. But I do honestly feel there's a bit of culpability here on behalf of Watsons.
Right.
I'd add to that, Ian, to be honest. Sorry, Ron, for cutting you off there. I mean, at the end of the day, we engage Watsons to do that. The fact that you've subcontracted it out isn't really our issue.
We don't contract out. We instruct on your behalf. So just so you're aware, every works is instructed on behalf of Millroyd Island Management Company. It's not Watson's instructed. We act as your agent. We place the works and a work order in the name of Millroyd Island Management Company. That's the same as, so if we moved on, we're not responsible for £350,000 budget and any works at your development. We're here to find you a contractor, put it in place. That contractor's liable. They're not a subcontractor of ours, they're a subcontractor of yourselves.
Right. And
Okay.
I did mention, sorry.
I'm not funny, we're not so just to explain, we don't do it works.
Yep.
So as an agent, I would do is
Can I
appreciate what you're trying to get over there, Ian.
Yeah.
But if we mentioned earlier, these jobs allocations that you do on site, do you always get RAMs for every individual job?
Large scale and high. We have what we ask for any contract that comes on. We have their what is it, generic ramps for not for low risk. Anything that's high risk or above a certain level of cost, then it comes in for individual ramps.
Right, because the reason I keep going on and going over about these steps that you must be fed up of hearing about by now is the actual construction of them. It was diabolical. There was actually constructed from an internal block at the side of a canal. It was built by thermalite blocks instead of a concrete block. I mean, who would have overseen that?
I don't know who instructed the works, but
I could probably answer that question. In fairness, that they were put in place way before James came on board. So it wasn't James. I think it was Emma.
Right.
But I mean, I do agree with Ron. From the minute they went in, they were they're not in keeping with the building. They were made of internal thermalite blocks. I think they're called, not thermalite. That's the explosive stuff. Ron, what's the stuff? Thermalite.
Thermalite, quite correct.
You know, with a bit of cladding on them. They look atrocious. I mean, I don't understand who would have signed that off, and the fixings and fittings, the handrail is atrocious. Taking that aside, we're now in a problem where something needs to be done with them because they are a QHSSE hazard.
Yeah, well, that was passed over to James. Again, I've lost him, so I don't know where he is with that.
Okay.
James, I'm not sure where he's gone with that one or where he approvals for any works that he needed doing. I can only assume that because he's gone back and says the contractor's out of business now, that he's looked into that and come back to you. But
it sort of seems now that we're going to be stuck in a sort of budget or Scarpa kind of situation where we'll get someone else in to try and do remedial work. And forgive me for saying this, but it's almost like for these steps, we're going to go through the rigmarole and cost of polishing a turd. Is it going to be simply better to rip the bloody things out and get proper wrought iron steps put in there, which was a like quote? And obviously the entire board would have to approve this, but I'm just throwing it out there. Would that be a better option? Because I just think that those ones looked horrendous from the get-go, and we're just going to keep calling people out because it's not fit for purpose.
It's a strange one because they were never. I don't even know where they are, but there used to be like a motorcycle. It's over that.
Carl, can you mute your phone again?
Yeah, I take it these steps are near the rendered end of the building and lead over onto the canal outside the gymnasium. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, because there were never anything there original, so that it's been put in. It's a funny one for me because if you were asking me now, I'd say take them out. And you don't want people next to the river. You don't want to be promoting people next to the river. But I think the reason they might have been put in is for an health and safety reason more than anything else, and that's because the actual fire escape leads out onto the canal bank.
I think there's two reasons they were put in. One was a glib comment that was made to a contractor hopping over the wall about, could I see your risk assessment for watering the plants? And then a week later, the steps get put in. Just saying.
It's just
so, but I do agree about the fire thing as well. I mean, they're almost, you do need it there. And to be honest, we do want to promote use of the canal side. I appreciate the health and safety danger, but we do need to do something with those steps.
Yeah, if you want to send that on to James and ask him to price for that, then I can't see why you wouldn't. Doing it right, doing it once and keeping it right is how it should be. And that's how I'd want it.
Carl, sorry, you got your hand up.
I nipped out earlier. Can I just check, have we covered off the insurance and where we're at with that now for the building?
No, you're still in exactly. They haven't responded. They haven't requested anything further. They responded on the back of the comments from the letter, just to have nothing much. So we haven't had anything further from regarding insurance. So he still hasn't been paid.
So the freeholder have paid for their insurance and charged it to us, and we've yet to pay. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
So the building is insured, but the freeholder, if you wanted to be awkward, could threaten certain actions due to us not paying the insurance. Is that correct?
You have, if you're looking at this, you have a duty to pay that insurance. You have a duty to pay ground rent, everything you have under your lease. They have a duty to insure the building. The actions that they can take are for them to determine. The only thing I would say is that the freeholder does have the right to place the managing agent. And you do, as a freeholder in law, generally, if the building isn't being maintained or whatever, they then could take action in relation to the management company for failing to maintain or keep the
And that would be us as MIMCO.
You're sorry?
That would be us as MIMCO then, not yourselves as our agent. Yeah. Okay.
When
And
was when was the premium due?
You're asking me one now. I think we start paying monthly, I believe, about March time. So we paid 3 instalments.
And then it's being repaid back.
They repaid that back. They wanted the actual directors to personally guarantee the sum, which they obviously refused to do. I would. We offered to guarantee it because obviously you've got the funds to be able to pay monthly. They refused that as well, which is unusual. We have numbers that we have buildings and a fair number of them on monthly payments. I don't get why this is suddenly became an issue.
So did we used to pay monthly?
You paid monthly last year.
So why is that now changed since then? Has anything been done that's caused that?
I don't know. That's insurance companies to accept monthly payment or not. And it was them that started asking for the different guarantees.
Had there been forewarned that there were issues with the shareholders and the previous board of directors, and has that led to uncertainty?
No.
No. Can you confirm? So you're confirming that that's not the issue?
Not that I know.
Okay. And then obviously we're due some more payments, like for people who pay half yearly as per lease, and those have changed to quarterly or monthly. Will we be in a situation soon where we can bite the bullet and pay that insurance?
You have your second half year service charges due on the 1st of July, I believe it is. So they should be charged out. It will depend on what comes in as to what you pay.
Okay. So regarding things that are incoming and outgoing, would you put as essential the insurance as the key point first and foremost?
This is it's in for me to make that decision. My advice would be that you have to place your insurance. You'd be remiss if you didn't, but you're also remiss if you don't complete the works to 120. You'd also remiss if you don't complete the health.
Yeah.
So
with the incoming cash flow we've got expected in the next 2 months, can we box off the insurance situation and the roof for 120 if we needed to? Is there going to be sufficient cash in July to do all that?
You may not have it straight away in July, but we may have enough to start the instructions and get that at least moving. But we'll have to see exactly who pays and who gets what.
And will this be wiping out our reserve fund completely to do that as well, or will that leave us with anything in reserve for emergencies?
I haven't got your accounts, but by the time you do the roof, I don't believe you'll have much left. But I don't run your building, so I don't know exactly where we are cash wise. But yeah, the works to the balcony of 120, I would expect would leave you by the end of the year low on cash again. The insurance budget, but it's the other works that it'll impact on your reserves.
Okay.
Were the previous board of directors made aware of the insurance situation and back in March time that the payments had changed and that, you know?
Yeah. We're all, yeah.
Did they have any intention or anything they communicated in terms of dealing with the issue?
more or less exactly the same as what we're advising yourselves, that as soon as cash became available, go back to Schroders, which is the last thing I did, advising them of that we could pay this in, we could pay a certain sum now, and the remainder after once second half service charges have been put in place. It's all dependent on cash flow. But yeah, they're exactly the same decision as what you're having to make.
It would
Just
be
a
handy
quick
if we
one
could
from
get
my
that 12-month cash flow
sorry,
forecast.
Stu,
Sorry, go on.
I just want to add as a personal director's statement, just be aware somebody's imitating me, and I just want it on record that it's not me, and that the only contact will either be in person through Teams, through a phone call, or through my email address you currently have. So any other means of contact, please keep the original copy and send it on to me, or let me know, and I'll come and collect any details regarding me as my director role. Because obviously at the moment it looks very compromising on me that I've been served a breach of lease for a letter that I haven't even sent. So I want something in writing confirming that that letter wasn't me, and that breach of lease notification is removed.
I personally don't know what the circumstances of that are. I didn't know you'd had a letter sent out. So if you can send me the letter, I'll have a look at that and come back to you.
James has a copy. James has a copy because he served me a breach of lease. So you can have a word with James and he can sort that from his end. But I am being impersonated to other companies as well.
Carl, if you'll send me the circumstances in an email, I will deal with it. All right.
What was disturbing him, though, is the original letter was shredded.
I don't know.
Within 24 hours. I think this does raise a good point, actually. And I mean, obviously, the original letter, it would be good if you could just check with James and confirm whether it was available or not, or if it was shredded. If it is available, it does need to be made available for Carl, because it is going to the police. It is part of a police investigation. But anything further that comes in, obviously, the originals have to be kept, especially if it's claiming to be one of those.
We tend to scan the letter. We don't tend to scan the letter. All letters should be scanned and copies saved on correspondence. So we should have a scan of it, but we won't keep the originals. We never do.
Is there any way of making an exception for letters that appear to be from one of the current board of directors?
We have thousands of communications every day.
Okay, then if we get a police instruction for evidence to be maintained and I can forward you a copy of that, will that set a precedent for that to be the case?
Yeah, I can't. System that we have in place, thousands of communications. We scan it and we think, ask them, but I can't see that everybody who opens a letter and scans it's going to determine it's going to remember the same one. They deal with thousands of them. It's very difficult for us. I'll try my best, but I can't guarantee it, is all I'm saying.
Well, I would have said, Ian, if you get an instruction from the police, you're going to have to do as you're told.
I'm sorry, but the police have an investigation. They can ask for evidence. What I'm saying is we have thousands upon thousands of communications. I have a system in place for dealing with communication and then dealt with.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, Ian. So the fact is, you receive a letter, you put the Watson's Property Management stamp on that letter, you then scan a copy of that letter, and then you contact the relevant parties, and then you shred that letter as an automated process.
It goes in a box. It goes in a confidential way.
Okay. No, that's fine. We were just asking a question if you'd be able to facilitate keeping fraudulent material claiming to be members of our management, and the answer is probably not. That's fine. We've covered that off. It was just an instruction we had for you, and you've answered the question. Thank you.
Ian, perhaps just as a sort of halfway solution, and I do appreciate your points, but maybe if you could just to send a quick email to the relevant people that do open the mail. I'm assuming it's normally set people, just explaining if it's from this person, this person, this person, please keep to one side. And at least then there's an instruction in place and it's kind of done.
as I said, I will ask, and I will ask them to try, but I can't guarantee. Yeah.
Yeah, no, understood. Sorry, there was another question that I was going to ask just before Carl mentioned his thing. And it completely escapes me. It was something to do with the insurance and so on, but it completely escapes me now.
Okay. So Ian, have we, and Stuart, you might know, have we actually got a copy of the mill insurance policy? This 90 grand thing?
I haven't seen a copy, but given the fact that we haven't paid for it, I'd imagine we're not entitled to see a copy at the moment.
Well, no, where I'm coming from is, as I understand it, we can do a like for like inquiry.
You can.
Similar to what took place in 2019 with a tenant.
Just to give you a little bit of information in relation to that, because obviously Mike Solick did a great deal of work to get you so that the freeholder has to deal with you correctly now, which they do. We currently, on high risk buildings, which yours is confirmed at, we're unable to get competitive quotes. People do, you're more or less stuck with the insurer that you're with, is what I'm saying. Is when we go out to try and get competitive quotes on buildings of high risk, they knock them back straight away. Nobody.
So if we haven't got the policy,
can I quickly ask a question?
Just a minute, Cal. If we haven't got the policy, how can we ascertain a like for like policy by making our own inquiry?
Because the schedule will be exactly the same as last year. We may have it. Once it's put in place, they normally send it across to us. But see, I'll see Jess and see whether we've got a copy for you. But yeah, you're more than welcome to try and get a competitive quote. And what I would say is that in my experience at the moment, the insurance industry is very, very reticent regarding insuring high-risk buildings, so you may have a problem.
When you say we're high risk, you mean in terms of the flood risk, or do you mean in terms of just everything in general?
Fire safety now has become the key to this. All insurers now, until you get your building safety case and you get your EWS1 and you get everything like that, you're an high risk building. And even once you've got them, we're struggling to get quotes for buildings that have got an EWS1. We're still struggling to get a quote because they're reticent to do it. They're risk averse at insurance companies.
There was a question we had about insurance as well, which is, I think we've already submitted this, is how many claims have been made historically on the policy, and is that impacting the premium? So I'll leave that one for you to sort of have a look at when you get a chance. And also, what excess is payable on claims?
All right.
Especially escape of water.
Yeah, I'll get Jess to give a breakdown on that, exactly what it is. We've got the policy, what the level is, but we should be able to send you the policy, hopefully.
Listen, I am probably going to have to make a run for it, guys. Go on, Carl.
Can I just ask a quick question? Obviously, Sandra Solid took MIMCO to tribunal about the insurance, which is how we've got to the position we are regarding where we can challenge a little bit more. Obviously, the ruling of that tribunal were that they don't pay the same, that they can't be charged full whack if they can show if you could get it cheaper elsewhere. I understand at the time it was just a paper exercise to set a precedent to then pursue things further. Can you confirm that they're not actually getting a reduced amount and that they're not holding to MIMCO to account for that?
As far as I'm aware, yeah, I believe I've answered to you before. As far as I'm aware, the only credit they got were the costs for the tribunal, and that's the only difference.
Okay, and obviously the precedent was set against MIMCO. Was there any further movement to establishing this further up the chain to say the freeholder in regards to the premiums they're charging MIMCO?
But I don't understand what you mean there.
So there were a tribunal that ruled in favour of Sandra Solid against MIMCO, which set a precedent. have Mimco, the former board, then pursued it further to say the freeholder, or however you'd elevate it once a precedent's been set?
I don't know, Ken. You were a member of the board at the time, so you probably have better understanding than I have.
When I tried asking questions, I were excluded from communications with that board. So is it their issue and not Watson's? And do we have to pursue the former board for further information on this process?
I don't understand. I don't know where you are with it, Carl. If you put me exactly what you're asking in an email as to what action's been taken against them, then I may be able to understand. But the understanding I have is that the board went out to get the right to insure the building correctly, so that the freeholder insured the building correctly, and that's what they did. And that's all I understand has been completed.
Okay, we'll get something to you as a board once we've discussed amongst ourselves and get Jane to send something right into you. Okay.
Thank you.
Again, Ian, don't misunderstand the questions or anything like that. I think it's a case of if it's genuinely not a Watson's issue, by all means come back to us saying this is not a Watson's issue, this is outside our remit, and at least then we sort of know, and we're not wasting your time by having a back and forth on it. Very quickly, the last things from me is, in light of the cash flow situation, it will be really good to get a 12-month cash flow forecast from the accounts team there. In addition to that as well, we do need to know what's happening with this excess, because people are very, very, times are tough out there at the minute. We've got a lot of costs coming our way and people are very nervous about this excess.
Yeah, I did chase James sent an email. I did, well, she's been copied in where I've chased the accounts to get the year end, and Eddie did come back. He's working on that, and I'll follow up with him to make sure he gets it to you as soon as possible.
Cool. I think that's everything from me. Ron, Carl, have you got anything you want to quickly add?
Just so you're aware that obviously we require the year end, it's part of our process. We do year ends very, very quickly anyway. You have an 18-month rule that the government put in place that allows for a year end to be completed. We normally provide them within around 6 months at worst. So although I'm saying we'll do it as quickly as possible, what I'm not saying is I can guarantee it'll be in the next couple of days, but it will be as soon as possible. We never hit 18 months, so I would expect we in the next couple of days, a week or so at latest, for you to have that information.
Okay, thanks, Ian. I think we've lost Carl. Ron, have you got anything?
No, I think Ian's answered the questions that I wanted to do. Thank you very much, Ian.
Nobody's wrong. Oh, it's all right. Yeah, I just want to say, we had a little bit of I said off last month, I'm quite happy to work together as long as we can have that thing. I think the only other thing I have is you may want, I'm not interested in being in your directors' meetings, but when you're going around and making a decision, it might be worth having the input of James. That's all I would say, because obviously you're making decisions on maintenance and what have you. But that might be an option for you moving forward if you can join online.
That's certainly something that I think I'd be willing to consider as well, and I think I can see the benefit of it. The problem is with time differences and everything else, we're sort of arranging for them to be sort of out of hours and sociable hours. How's that going to fit in with James's availability, and are we going to have to pay for it?
No, I have this from them all. What we do is, if we can accept on a building your size, say 4 directors' meetings a year. So if you're making key decisions on maintenance or anything, if you're having, I know the old company had meetings in between, but if you're looking at, say, a quarterly one, James can join on Teams or whatever, then there's no charge for that.
Okay, yeah, I think that's something we can do going forward. I do see a benefit of it. Carl, you got your hands up? Anything?
Oh, sorry, I would just my computer kicked me out, so I just missed that. We're just confirming that Watson's might be able to attend quarterly meetings.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, cheers.
Yeah, I'd like to say, as long as if you can do them on Teams, that assists us greatly as well, because obviously he doesn't have the travelling time and everything on that as well. Then, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we tend to do it on Teams anyway, and I think the final thing is there is an email pinging around I've seen about the postal address and the company registration. Jane has checked with Company House. We're going to register at the mill, and the postal address is going to be the red post box. And she's been coordinating with James on this one anyway, so that's already dealt with and should be hopefully sorted in the next few days.
Oh, thank you. Yep, I'm happy at
Cool.
that.
Fine.
Okay, guys, I spent 90 minutes of work time doing this, so I need to go before my boss starts getting a bit pissed off.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ian.
All right.
Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Carl. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
See you later. Cheers, bye.